Hello and welcome to the QPT Pod. This is the new format for the QPT Pod. It might change name, I don't know. We might call it Quinn's Corner in, memoriam of Callum's Corner, but we probably won't. I'm not going to be putting pressure on myself to making these episodes. I'm going to be doing them when I feel as though I want to do them. And if I enjoy it, and if you guys enjoy it as well, I'm going to be putting it on YouTube and figure out how to put it on Spotify as well. If you guys enjoy it and get something from it, then I will be obviously continuing it because it is something that I really like to do. So I'm going to go through and obviously set the scene. What is this about? What are you doing, Quinn? Right? So the people who are going to gain something from this podcast anyone can gain something from it, but I'm going to be talking about my experiences with personal, business, everything, my life. So I'm not the most, full of wisdom 25-year-old, but I have been around the block a little bit and I have had some experiences that maybe some people can learn from and, prevent themselves from making the same mistakes or, doing what I have done quicker so that they can progress their life a little bit quicker without having any obstacles and struggles, etc. My goal for this podcast really is if I can help just one person change their life, I'm a happy man. I've done my job. That's all I really want to do. Okay. They're not going to be very long. Probably start with 15-20 minutes, but I can ramble. So you never know. It could be we could be having fucking feature-length films. I don't know. Guests. I will be probably having guests. There's a couple of people already that I want to have on the podcast who fit the bill when it comes to this podcast and how I want it to go, to come across. The certain people who have had experiences and gotten out of those situations that were detrimental to them. The same as myself. And I'm going to be speaking about mindset. I'm going to be speaking about a little bit about fitness, obviously, because that's my job and that's my business and that's what I've always loved. But I'm going to try and make it a little bit more about everyday life and how you can be better just from, working on yourself. Because at the end of the day, if you're trying to find a relationship, if you're trying to find your path in life, if you don't know yourself, you're never going to know where you want to be in the end. Okay. And especially with relationships, you have to work on yourself before you can then open yourself up to other people, because otherwise you'll be a bit of a prick. Trust me. All right. So this episode specifically is about my own, my journey, really, my experiences, things that I definitely have not talked about, but I've wanted to talk about for a while, not because I want to put them out there, because at the end of the day, they might come back and bite me in the butt. But at the same time, I want people to understand that even someone like myself, who's not made it, I don't want to say that I've made it, but I've moved on from certain situations that I was finding myself in. And the way I dealt with it and the experiences that I've had, I can hopefully help younger guys and girls. This is not just a guy podcast, but I will be talking from my experience, and unfortunately I don't have a fanny, all right? But at the same time, if you can take anything from this, you can put it into your life, or you can stop yourself from doing something in your life that I have done or, that I talk about. So basically, it's not going to be about business. I've talked about my business a lot on other podcasts. This is going to be about personal progression. I do hope that family members are not watching, especially my mother. That is not going to be conversation I don't particularly want to have with her. But if she does, I'm 25. Do what I want. I am also, by the way, it's boiling. I've got lights on me. I've got no fan in here. So I think I might have to, for the next episode, get the fan. But I'm dripping. If those watching, those listening, just imagine me sitting here in a grey t-shirt, absolutely just soaking wet. Oh God, maybe some people might like that. Anyway, so basically I'm going to talk about my struggles, and I'm not going to go, and I don't want to make it out like, I was completely in a position where I was not fortunate. I grew up quite fortunate. My family have never really struggled that much, especially my dad on my dad's side. And he's always been able to help me out money-wise, financially. And I've never really had anything, You know, when I was younger, I always had what I wanted. I always had presents under the tree at Christmas. So I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, I'm so hard done by. That's not what this podcast is about. That's not what my life has been about. But it's basically about explaining how I've gotten out of a victim mentality, really. And that's what it boils down to, is nowadays in this generation, a lot of people, you know, they're a volunteer victim. You know, they want to almost have that victim mentality so that they can have that as an excuse as to why they haven't, you know, done anything with their life so far. If they haven't, you know, progressed in any way since school or college or whatever it might be, right? And I was in the same boat. Like, I left university, and I mean, we'll go back further in a bit. But what I'm saying is, I left university and I, you know, had a degree. I had a qualification in personal training, and it was lockdown. And I started my business doing Zooms, but there was a lot of other things going on that was completely, you know, on the back side of the front, if you see what I'm saying. That sounds stupid, but you know, the front I was putting out was this healthy coach, Zoom, etc. But I was behind the scenes during lockdown, drinking and eating myself to death, like really, really badly. Okay, and other things as well, which I'm going to go on to in a minute. But I'm going to take you back to finishing college. So when it comes to, you know, school and college, a lot of the time, you know, you do what your friends do, right? You sort of form your friendship groups, and then that's what you end up doing. And when I was at college, we all gymmed. We all went to the gym. That's what we did. And that's where I built up my base. And that's where I started my, you know, passion for going to the gym and, you know, self-improvement, etc. But it was always very much in and out, depending on what I was doing. I did a massive bulk, and it just, you know, completely progressed me very far because I was getting so much stronger. But then when it comes to leaving college, and I was working at Waitrose Bagshot 514, shout out, and I was, you know, basically spending my whole paycheck on drinking and drugs. I'm going to put it out there. And this carried on for a very long time, and longer than a lot of people think. Some people know, obviously, my close friends do. But it was getting to the point where I was spending basically my whole paycheck on going out on the weekends and doing whatever and being stupid, because it was almost as though, because I didn't see myself having that much of a future, I allowed myself to get into this rut of, right, I'm not going to save, I'm not going to progress anything, I'm just going to go to work, go straight to the pub, do whatever at the pub, and then go home and wake up the next day, you know? And that was reinforced a lot by, I started a landscaping job at the same time as Waitrose, and then I continued after that as well. And this is where you're a young guy, 18, 19, and you get thrown into work with these older guys who are doing certain things, and then, you know, you've got your mates who are in the same trades and stuff like that, and you're all meeting at the pub after work every single day of the week pretty much. And it's a very sticky situation to find yourself in, because it's one of those things where you're gonna do it, you know, and you're earning cash in hand most of the time, so it's just something that you fall into. And I'm not condoning this at all, please don't think that I'm condoning it, but I'm also just, you know, I'm trying to tell you because it's quite normalized nowadays, and I'm trying to, you know, set the scene so that when I, you know, go on and speak about breaking out of that, I've got the fucking t-shirt basically. So, you know, heavily going to the pub and doing whatever you do at the pub, and you know what I'm talking about. And then basically my mum sat me down and said, I want you to progress your career. I want you to do something, whether that's go uni, whether that's to find an apprenticeship, whatever it might be. So I thought, I've always loved sport. I can always jump straight back into sport. So I went to university and started a sports degree. Now, going from the pub where I was, you know, drinking and sniffing quite a lot, and then moving into a university that wasn't notorious for that, especially in your first year when you're new and you don't know people, etc. You don't have contacts, whatever it might be. You know, I stopped doing that. And it was just drinking and a lot of drinking, which comes with uni. First year and second year were okay. Then you started to find friends and people who, you know, that you knew people. And year two, I was back to doing some sort of drugs, not too much, but, you know, in a cycle of, you know, just using on the weekends and, you know, midweek for Wednesdays, because, you know, I didn't really like uni. I loved the people. I loved, you know, the thought of progressing myself, but the actual university, I'm so bad at. I cannot sit in a classroom for very long and be talked at. That's just not how my brain works. And it was fine, and my course was good, but the third year was an absolute nightmare. It was bigger lecture halls, bigger classes, less communication with the lecturer, which I need to be able to bounce things off someone to get the most out of it. And I've got myself into a hole where I nearly dropped out. I literally had like a term left, and I remember being in my bedroom crying because I just wanted to drop out. I called my mum, I called my dad. My housemates were coming in to try and comfort me, and I literally just couldn't see a way out, because at the same time I had literally developed a very severe, not severe, I don't want to say severe, but an addiction to ketamine, and I was using it pretty much 3 to 4 times a week, and very large amounts, because if you do it a lot, you build up tolerance, and then you have to do more and more and more, and you're chasing a dragon, etc. Which is where, you know, chasing and getting that dopamine hit comes from, and that's why I can speak about that from experience, because for a long time, while I was in uni and my third year, I did manage to sort it out and figure it out, and then move back home during lockdown, and then I was still doing it at home. And then when I moved back to Worcester, and I was living on my own, no one could tell me no one could tell me what to do. I was drinking and doing ketamine as well. And again, I do not condone this. I was doing it like on my own in my flat, because that's the extent that I wanted to get away from how I was feeling myself. But at the same time, I was not doing anything actively to better my situation. The only thing I was using was drugs and drink and food. Now, this is why you'll see photos of me being out of shape and in shape and all the time. I speak about this very much with my Legacy boys and on my, on the program as well. Being in and out of shape, getting in shape is easy, but dropping in and out of shape is what happens if you don't have a strong mindset. And I've had a very, very weak mindset for a long time, and it's only until recently have I started to focus on my own self, my mind, and since I have done, it's been the progress has been exponential, So during this time, I literally had no concept that what I was doing to myself was detrimental. In the long run, I thought the world was against me. I thought everything that I was doing was down to like karma and all this sort of stuff. And this is why I don't really believe in karma that much. And I don't believe in, manifesting, because at the end of the day, yes, you can do that, but you have to go out and get it. You have to do it yourself. And I was in a situation where I was literally waking up in the morning. I had one 7 a.m. Zoom to do with my Zoom guys. And at 7 a.m., I would have been, on it all night, on my own, in my flat, drinking as well. And I would cancel that 7 a.m. session because I was too busted. And that's the only thing I had to do that day during January, February, March of 2021 when we were in lockdown and I couldn't work. I was so depressed. I was literally my flat was a shithole. I was eating junk food. I was literally drinking alcohol, sniffing, doing whatever. And it was just an absolute hole. And again, it's not good, right? And I know that that's not good. I'm just trying to show you that that's the depths that I went to, and that's the depths that I took myself to. It's not anyone else's fault. Nobody took me there and did it for me. I did that to myself because I thought that was the only way out. Because, when I was doing K, it was taking me away and, my mind wouldn't be thinking about what's going on. And it was that dopamine hit and, getting a feeling of feeling good, right? Now, only until I moved into, so I lived with a guy called Sean for a year. So last year, I've only just moved out. Now, what the turning point was 2 things for me personally, okay? And the first one was I moved into Sean's place and I basically told him that, look, I do ketamine. And he said, as long as you don't do it in the house. And I basically said in my head, well, that's the only real time I've bloody did it, So that really was the, I literally stopped doing it. I did it a couple of times that year where I was out and about and whatever, but I wasn't doing it at home and nowhere near as much as I was, which was definitely a massive turning point for myself. Having that, you cannot do it here, and me respecting that as well, because I could have easily not respected that, but I literally never ever did it, and that's been a massive push to I don't want to say sobriety because that's not what it's about, but staying away from that, those bad habits. The other thing was, changing my life in terms of business-wise. Now, I don't want to talk about business again, but Aaron, general manager of Fitness for Less, really good friend of mine, really, have a lot of respect for him because he really did help me in a time where I was very much struggling. I was in this scenario, completely self-damaging, self-medicating because I thought the world was against me. I didn't have any money because I was spending it all on drugs and going out and drinking, but then I couldn't pay the rent and I was asking for money from parents, and it's just a bad cycle to be in. And Aaron sat me down and I remember sitting in his office and saying, Aaron, I need you to give me some hours on the desk at Fitness for Less because that's to the extent it got to. And he literally said, you're not doing anything. He was like, you have to go out and get it. If you do not go out and get it, it will not come to you. And I literally sat there and I was like, right, that's it. And from that day, I literally was posting on stories, posting content. And then he told me about his friend Steve, and obviously I'll go on to probably an episode about the mentorship, etc. at some point, or at least touch on it. But signed up with Steve, and the rest is history in terms of the business. Been working hard over the last year. But those two things turned my life around. Okay, and it was not until those two things happened, pretty much at the same time, maybe a little bit different, but pretty much at the same time, that my life completely changed. My business started booming, obviously due to the mentorship and putting the hard work in and not feeling shit all the time. I was still drinking, but nowhere near enough, weekends and just relaxing at home or whatever and going out with friends. But it was never about, to try and get intoxicated, which it was about for a long time beforehand, that like I still now, there's no point having one drink. What's the point of that? You either just don't have a drink or you get to the point where you get blasted. It's one or the other, right? I've recently been, had a few drinks here and there and it's been okay, but yeah, no, it's a fucking waste. I just see it as a waste. So what was the biggest change, and how can someone else who has been in that or is in that position right now, you might not think you are, but you definitely are in that position. How can someone use what I'm telling you for good, for the better, right? You need to be able to zoom out and not be in the moment every single time. If you can zoom out and think, is this going to help me in the long run? Whether that's career, whether that's personal, whether that's health, whatever it might be, think to yourself, is this benefiting me in the long run? Okay. The other thing is to look at what your friend, your circle of friends is doing. If they are doing things that are bad habits that are not going to benefit you in the long run, think about saying no to those events. Think about figuring out a way that you can step away from those things. Maybe not cut complete contact with them, but find a way to step away from those habits. For myself, my friendship group at home, was we were doing what I was explaining earlier, going to the pub a lot. And till the point, even when I was at university, doing the same thing, and even now doing the same thing, And for myself, I was lucky that I moved away for university because it took me away from that. And that was a big change, And then when I moved back to Worcester, it's the same sort of thing. And now I've moved further away. I haven't cut contact with my friends from home because they, I love them to bits. They're absolutely, I would never, ever cut contact with them. The only thing is I'm not there to be able to do the events and do the, go out every single weekend or whatever it is, because that's what, a lot of them were doing up until a recent point, and a lot of them are making a change now, which is great. And I've been working, closely with a few of them, trying to push them to it. And I've got one guy who's definitely going to be a guest at some point, who has turned his life around, and it's amazing to see. So if you are someone who is sat here listening to this, or whatever you're doing listening to this, and you feel like life's going good, you're not really eating correctly, you're not really going to the gym, you're not really saying no to those events that is not going to be good, and you're going to end up drinking or sniffing or whatever it might be, take a weekend off and tell me how you fucking feel Monday. Because for somebody who wants to work hard in their job on a Monday morning, going out Friday and Saturday and then having a few beers Sunday is not helping you out. And you are just in a cycle where you're in the rat race. And that is why, some people can work their way up in the rat race, absolutely fine, depending on the job and what career you've got. And I completely, respect that. But I could not do that myself. If I put work in, I get I get a return because I'm self-employed, I run a business. For those people who are not running a business, who are employed by somebody else, and you get a fixed salary, but you're spending all your salary on the weekends drinking and sniffing, and then in the week on shit food and not going to the gym, and then you sit there going, oh, why do I feel so shit all the time? Look at your own actions. Zoom out, look at what you're doing, and cut the shit. You do not need to do half of the stuff you're doing. You're only doing it to feel a sense of accomplishment, or feel a little bit of dopamine and a little bit of like a win, right? Because you get to the end of the week, oh, what a tough week, but I've smashed it. I'm going to go to the pub and spend 400 quid over the weekend, whatever, right? Now, if you do that every weekend over 4 weeks, you're spending a lot of bloody money, and then you just about pay your rent, then you just about scrape by, and then you cry that you can't invest in gym programs, can't invest in a therapist, can't invest in anything, right? Stop with the tomfoolery. It is not worth it in the end. I am sitting here in front of you, or I am standing in front of the microphone talking to you, telling you that there is a way out. I was in a very deep, dark hole. I was spending so much money on drugs and drink. I was in a position where I never thought that I was going to stop sniffing. And I managed to not get myself out, but use what life gave me, the people around me at the time, and use it for the better. And I am now sat in a position where I can honestly say that for this year, I haven't touched any drugs. I've been drinking occasionally here and there. I'm in the best shape of my life. I've got the best relationship that I've been in, and I'm living in my own house. I've got a cat. I've got the car that I want. I've got a business that runs itself. And I'm not bragging. I'm just saying that I was in a 1-bed flat, throwing my life away 2 years ago. And in 2 years, I've worked my arse off to get to this point. And what I want you to take from this is anyone can do it, no matter how far down the rabbit hole you are. It will just take a little bit longer. It will take a little bit more discipline. Now, I'm not the most disciplined person, but my mindset now is focused on what my love is and my career is, right? And that is to help people, to get them, in the best shape so that they're mentally good as well, so that they can continue that into the future. If you're in a position where you are not enjoying work, you're not enjoying your lifestyle that you are living, and because everybody says it, oh, I feel like death, never again, on Sunday evening, Monday morning, whatever it might be, right? Everybody says it. But then by Wednesday, you're thinking about Thursday, and then you're down the pub Thursday drinking and sniffing. So why can you not step out of that cycle? Because that cycle is the one that's keeping you in there. That dopamine cycle, that finding the next hit, is exactly why your life is shit and you are spending all your money to get that dopamine hit. And the reason you do that is because you can't get dopamine from anything else. You cannot get it from little wins. You can't get it from doing anything else in your life except doing, getting the dopamine hit from doing gear or whatever it might be, right? Now, once you break out of that cycle, it's going to feel shit. You're going to be, might have withdrawal symptoms. You might, feel like your dopamine, your mood is just low, right? But if you can do a couple of weeks without doing it and without drinking, your dopamine levels are going to be rising, because you're going to be getting little wins from, work was really good today. I actually smashed today. I feel good. Or I went to the gym and had a really good session. Those are what you're going to get dopamine hits from. Instead of, I smashed a 3-5 on the weekend with my mate. Cool, yeah, that was sick. It's not cool. It's not funny. I mean, I'm not condoning it. And I'm not saying, I'm sitting here, trust me, I've done it. And life is much better when you don't do it. And I'm not saying I'm never going to do it again, because that's just ridiculous. And it's just something I'm not, I probably would tell you on here. That's the point of this podcast, unfiltered. But, okay, this is coming to an end now. I think I've gone over what I wanted to in terms of, mindset. But if you were to take anything from this podcast, is that as long as you find what you want to do and work on yourself and look inward, okay, find what your passion is, find what you love to do, find what you're good at, and make money from it. Whether that is finding a job within a company that you're good at sales, find a top job in sales and be the top salesman. If you're very creative, there are so many jobs, freelance, to become a content creator, but to do editing, to have a, like some form of content agency. There's lots of paths with that. If you are good at writing, you can do copy. If you're good at drama in front of camera, you can make content. You just have to have a passion and find a way that you can monetize it by making money from it. Which is, I'm glad that I've made that happen, and hopefully I'm going to try and grow a YouTube, and obviously I'm growing my TikTok and Instagram and all this sort of stuff. So hopefully I can get to the point where I can monetize, being in front of the camera, because that's what I'm good at and that's what I like to do. But if you're sat there doing the same shit every single week, you will never be able to have the time to look inward, because you're always going to be, what's next? Give yourself a month off. This is everyone's homework that's watching this. If you are in that, in that scenario that I was talking about, whether it's drinking, whether it's food, it can be anything, bad habits. I want you to take 4 weeks away from that habit. Okay? Then when you come back after 4 weeks, I want you to completely forget about it. And I can guarantee you will not want to do it again. Because at the end of the day, the benefits that you've had from doing the 4 weeks off, you are going to feel absolutely unbelievable from doing it. And then you're gonna see the benefits of not doing it, and you're gonna see the benefits of the little wins, going to the gym, whatever it might be. So that's your homework. And Professor Pryor is giving you some homework, which is sort your fucking life out. It's bad, it's not good, so stop doing it. What's the point? Instead of going to the pub, go to the gym. It's an easy switch. Just because your mates are down the pub, they're not going to fucking defriend you or defriend you because you haven't gone to the fucking pub on a Tuesday night. Go to the fucking gym. Go for a run. Go for a walk. Go and see your grandparents that you haven't seen in fucking months. Do something, right? Calm, breathe, Quinn. Anyway, it's fucking boiling hot in here. We've nearly hit half an hour. So, this was episode 1 of the QPT pod. If you enjoyed this, if you got something from it, please let me know via Instagram. If you know me personally, send me a message, please, because obviously I want to get as much feedback from this as possible. If this is on YouTube, well, it will be on YouTube. Please drop me a comment, a like, and share it on your Instagram and stuff like that as well, because it really helps, and subscribe. And also, it's going to be on Spotify as well. So please subscribe on Spotify, or I don't know how it bloody works yet. Whatever it is on Spotify, please listen to it, and if you do, subscribe to it, and we can keep growing it. And the more feedback I get, the more I'm going to do more. And also, if you've got other things that you want me to talk about, that you feel as though that I might have, I can put me fucking 2 pence on. Who put 50p in Quinn, right? Then let me know. If it is fitness, we can do fitness. If it's mindset, we can do mindset. Because I have worked with a therapist for over a year now. I've been in the fitness industry, blah, blah, blah. There's lots of things that I can talk about that I can put my opinion on, okay? Anyway, this has been episode 1 of the new series of series 2 of the QPT pod. Go out there, get stuck in. Nobody's going to do it for you. Stop being a victim. I will see you in the next episode. See ya!